What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And over the past few years, or I guess you could say decade or so, Disney has come under fire for a lot of criticism outside of just pricing and things of that nature. But the criticisms have been levied that they have been removing aspects of their theme parks that have been traditionally very Americana, especially when compared to Walt Disney and how much Americana that he included into his theme parks when he was alive. But with the 250th anniversary of America coming up, Disney announced today that they are doing a new Soarin Across America, which is coming to both Disney World and Disneyland to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, potentially trying to alleviate some of those accusations. But I also think this fits into something I've been saying that they're looking at doing, especially in this next few years here, why they have a lot of construction going on. But either way, we're going to look at this, see what it's going to be, and give some thoughts on it. So this is from Disney Tourist Blog. So here's the announcement from Disney about this. Coming next year to Epcot and at Walt Disney World and Disney California Adventure at Disneyland Resort is going to be Soarin Across America, which I do like that poster, I will say. It says, buckle up and get ready for takeoff. The fan-favorite attraction Soarin' will be receiving an all-new airborne adventure across the U.S., debuting in the summer of 2026. I think the next summer definitely fits into what I've been saying I think Disney is doing with other things they're also doing, which we'll talk about. The new bicoastal offering will showcase the United States from sea to shining sea, highlighting some of the country's natural beauty and iconic cityscapes. It says here are a couple of behind-the-scenes photos showing the making of Soarin' Across America. So this is seemingly going to be actual footage because a lot of the criticisms of Soarin' around the world is the fact that there are some CGI elements to it, which I will say, like the Taj Mahal, I don't think that looks good because you can clearly tell that that is just fake and kind of takes you out of it a little bit. But here it looks like they might be in the Everglades. Looks very Florida right there. So Soarin' Across America will be brought to life with iconic elements that make Soarin' unforgettable. The flight, the sights, and score, even the scents. Walt Disney Imagineering is hard at work capturing more than a dozen breathtaking locations for the new flight. That's a video here which we will watch, which features Patrick Warburton, who I love. He has a great voice and he's a pretty funny dude.
Hello, I'm Patrick, your chief flight attendant. Soon, as you sail through our spacious skies, you may see amber waves of grain, purple mountain majesties. That's right. We're going to be soaring across America. What better way to celebrate the country's semi-quincentennial than with a limited time sea to shining sea itinerary? America's packed a lot into her 250 years, so you'll want to pack a lot of party favors into your roll aboard. This includes Betsy Ross flags, hot dogs, apple pies, bald eagles, bunting, pocket constitutions, powdered wigs, and of course, these little beauties. Nice work, pal. Happy 250th, America.
History began on July 4th, 1776. Everything before that was a mistake.
So that was a promo video they had, which Patrick Warburton, if you're unaware, is part of the pre-flight video that you watch. It's always been a little bit of a fan favorite there. So when I first saw this, I looked at that and I was like, okay, like that's pretty cool. But I was curious kind of what, other people's takes were on this. So I found this article from Disney Tourist Blog where he has a little commentary on this and kind of see what Tom Bricker's thinking is here. Cause he, it's obviously it's Disney Tourist Blog. It's very pro Disney, but he, for the most part, I think when you're talking about somebody who has a bias toward Disney, I do think he's pretty fair and kind of objective in many ways. And I like to use him sort of as a benchmark of kind of like where, how this is being perceived maybe by some out there. So he says, while Soarin' Around the World highlights the natural world, or rather a version of nature created by a computer, which agreed, like we said, I think that is one of the definite downsides to Soarin' Around the World. It focuses more on landmarks. I'm not particularly averse to Soarin' Around the World, but all the CGI, cheesy animals, and distortion has worn on me over time. Moreover, Soarin' over California is not showing its age at all. If anything, it benefits from its footage being real, whereas the extensive CGI of the new version will inevitably date itself much sooner. Given that my assumption is that Imagineering will have learned its lesson there, Soarin' Across America will largely focus on the natural world to avoid datedness and distortion. Of course, there will be the obligatory flyovers of Washington, D.C. and New York City, since it only makes sense to feature those cities in a new show for the 250th anniversary of the United States. But I hope that's the extent of the cities featured, plus maybe San Francisco or Seattle for a bit of West Coast representation. It says seeing the Space Needle or the Golden Gate Bridge is always fun. It says all of this is what makes me glad that Soarin' Across America is debuting at Epcot and DCA in 2026. I agree. I'm very happy to see this type of Americana, being highlighted and coming back into the parks. Walt Disney Imagineering has made some fixes to Soarin' Around the World over the last couple of years, but a new version is still needed. And it'll be nice for once that Epcot isn't simply receiving the hand-me-downs of a project funded by another resort. My only concern is that Chief Flight Attendant Patrick Warburton mentioned Soarin' Across America is going to be a limited time offering in the video announcement. I hope this is incorrect and it's the new permanent attraction. I also hope that Imagineering gets a proper budget to pull this off. I agree with that. I'm not like I've said, I'm not a huge fan of Soarin' Around the World. I think this should be a permanent thing here. And then maybe after a few years, you have a rotation. But I do hope this is a permanent change because I think that would be a good change of pace. It says, beyond better visuals and showcasing the beauty of the United States, I love Soarin' Across America precisely because it celebrates America. Agreed. Rock, flag, and eagle. This is exactly what the United States needs more of in these unnecessarily charged and polarized times. I agree with that. I do agree. Exercises in patriotism instead of politics that remind us of what makes this great nation special and works to unite the country instead of divide us. It seems like everywhere you look, there's an inclination to foment rage. So this is whole, quote, Disney celebrates America for the 250th anniversary of the United States is good counter-programming to that. I'm not naive enough to think Soarin' Across America is going to heal our nation, but it'll certainly do more good than harm, and that alone is a step in the right direction for Disney. Well, also considering Disney, you can have the arguments about less Americana in the parks, but obviously they have stepped their foot into political, issues the past especially 5 years, a lot more cultural things, and I do think it's been to the detriment of the company, and so there's been lots of criticism of these things, of course, and I'm sure some people will take politics into this anytime you just simply say we're going to celebrate America, but flying over or showing footage of America, because America is beautiful, like going out west and different spots, I mean, it's such a diverse landscape in terms of all the different areas of the country. It's really hard to look into landscapes of the country and read really political leanings into that unless there's things inside that footage that are going to be obvious, but I don't think Disney is going to be doing that. And I do wonder in many levels if Disney really is trying to reset themselves out of some of these cultural stuff they've gotten into, some of these political things they've gotten into. And this is one reason I think that Josh D'Amaro is more than likely, unless something drastic happens, he will be the next CEO of Disney. And I've said for a while now, I think one of the things that is his strong suit in potentially being the next CEO is that I don't have any idea about his politics. And obviously people have very strong idea about Bob Iger's politics, Dana Walden's politics, who's also in the running for CEO. Seemingly, he has been able to do his job. Now, whether you agree about doing his job well or not, he doesn't have any political baggage associated with it. And I think if you're looking at somebody that's trying to reset Disney, you're trying to get out of these cultural, fights. And if you're looking to sort of reset the company and not get involved in these things, which Bob Iger has said that they want to do, Josh D'Amaro makes a lot of sense as somebody that could do that, and doing something like this as well of celebrating the 250th anniversary. These are going to be good gestures. I think a lot of people will be glad to see, because not only does it just celebrate the country in which, Disney was able to flourish and become the company that it is, but also is to the roots of the company as well. Because again, Walt Disney was very patriotic. All the Americana in the parks, all the things that he did during his time, really celebrating America, it gets back to the roots of that, which I think is a good thing. Soarin' Across America comes at a time when the Walt Disney Company has become more of a frequent fixture of culture wars, and as a result, erroneously accused of being unpatriotic and more in some circles. To anyone who actually visits Walt Disney World or Disneyland, the idea that the parks are anti-American couldn't be further from the truth. Well, but I think the things that are considered American, they've been there for a while. I think the criticism you're looking at the Disney parks are a lot of the things that have been Americana have been altered or removed or lessened over time. I think that's really where at least some of the legitimate criticisms are. It says few Americans ever were more patriotic than Walt Disney. He was so distinctly patriotic that he even attempted to join the Army in 1918, but was rejected for being too young. Walt Disney went on to serve his country in many ways, and that legacy is still carried on at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland to this day. Entire lands like Main Street USA or Liberty Square are, in my view, patriotic. Well, I mean, they are basically the 4th of July every single day that you're there, so yeah. Then there are the more overt attractions like Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, the American Adventure, and Hall of Presidents. I would also argue that the Carousel of Progress, electrical water pageant, and more are patriotic. There are a variety of little ways that Disney celebrates America that go unnoticed by most guests. Then there's the Independence Day in the Disney parks. The bottom line is that if there are more patriotic theme parks than Disney, I haven't visited them. Well, you have not been to Silver Dollar City, because Silver Dollar City is very patriotic. They announced like a month ago they were doing a whole bunch of stuff for the 250th, so I'm just going to assume he has not been there, because I would assume Dollywood is very similar in that it's a sister park to Silver Dollar City that's in Branson, Missouri, but it is a very, very patriotic theme park. The last few years have been fraught with controversy and political standoffs between Disney and both California and Florida, leading some to question the company's values. But the reality is that Disney has always been patriotic, and patriotism is not the same as politics. Sometimes it's good to have a reminder of that distinction. Well, I think one reason Disney's doing this is because it's much more culturally safe to celebrate America in 2026 than it would have been perhaps maybe 10 years ago. I think there is a cultural shift being more patriotic and things of that nature than we have seen, in recent history. And I think when you're looking at this, it could be a calculation of if we didn't celebrate the 250th, we're going to get a lot of backlash because obviously that's going to be criticized. So in many ways, it's the least they could do is obviously doing something to celebrate the 250th, but also just a way in which to, try and shield themselves from criticism, I suppose you could say, if they did not do this. I mean, you also had changing Frontierland. I think you're changing it forever and doesn't make any sense having googly-eyed cartoon cars in a Frontierland setting, but removing the Rivers of America, which had close to, Walt Disney loved that aspect of the parks, getting rid of the Liberty Bell, which is very Americana, was not helping any of the accusations out there that Disney was, wanting to remove these aspects from their parks and that they were anti-American. So whether or not the motivations behind the changes in the parks were based on the fact that they were anti-American or simply them trying to just appeal to more of a worldwide audience, everyone's going to have their opinions on that. I'm sure in the comments here, there will be tons of those. And I'm not going to speak from having knowledge of this because I don't know. But from the outside looking in, there has been less Americana, especially since Walt's day. I mean, undoubtedly, you do not see as much patriotism now as you did back in Walt's day. Now, they still have Main Street, which is basically the 4th of July every day. That is still there. And so, there's obviously still aspects of Americana that are in the theme parks, but nothing new. These are all things that have been around for a very long time, and all you have seen is a removal of these and nothing really to replace them in many instances. And this is the first time I can remember in at least recent history of something new coming in that is deemed, pro-America. It's celebrating the 250th anniversary of America here. So I think if that is the viewpoint, especially a lot of the general consensus out there that, Disney is removing these aspects from their parks, this is something that can help quell that and show like, hey, we are pro-America. We're celebrating the 250th. Now, I do hope that there is more than just this in the Disney parks to celebrate the 250th anniversary. I think that would be a good move. So I think this is one of those things that is a low risk, high reward type of scenario. I'm sure some people may be offended by it, but for the most part, people are going to be like, okay, this is really cool. And it's a new attraction that they can throw in there to bring people into the parks. So I think it's got a lot of potential wins for Disney on that front. I just hope it's not a temporary type of attraction, and I do hope they do more things here. I'd like to hear about some sort of special fireworks show, say Magic Kingdom, Epcot, something else than just this show, I think would be good for the 250th anniversary. But this is a good start here and something that I do like to see. But this could be the beginnings again. If D'Amaro is named the CEO, they do things like this, trying to remove themselves from these culture wars, trying to remove themselves from this political side of things that they've gotten involved with, and getting them back to focus on the theme parks, on the movies, on the TV shows. If they're really trying to make an effort to do that, this could be the beginning stages of them doing that with a new CEO, with things like this in the parks. Well, and the other thing I think this is a part of is I think Disney learned the lesson this summer that shows and parades were not going to be enough to pull crowds from people going to Epic Universe and Universal, or really getting people into their parks where at the very least they didn't have any new attractions. And if the reports are accurate from like touring plans and other outlets, that attendance this summer was very low, some of the lowest we've seen since about 2022, I think in that time period is what they said. You know, we'll find out what the revenue was on the earnings call coming up. But if they did see an attendance hit this summer, then the things that they're doing, trying to open these new things up by next summer, this being one of them, also the animation experience in Hollywood Studios, which just started its construction, they're turning that around very quickly. And I think you're seeing Disney do a lot more of these short-term turnarounds of something that is a, quote, new attraction to check out during a time period when they have 3 out of their 4 theme parks under construction that are going to be under heavy construction for a very long time. As I've talked about before, Disney construction does not move quickly. And if they were impacted by attendance this summer from Epic Universe, this is not just a this summer problem. This is an ongoing issue they are going to have, because Epic Universe is the weakest it's ever going to be right now. It's only going to get stronger into the future. And Disney's things that they're going to open up eventually, we'll have to wait and see what those impacts are on the crowds when they're done. But they're not going to be done for 5+ years. I mean, Villains Land is not going to be done, in my opinion, till well into the 2030s. And not to mention the construction itself is a deterrent to attendance. A lot of people will look at the construction, and that's before you even get into the price increases that just happened, and they'll just say, we'll just wait till this stuff is done, and then we'll go to the parks, because A, people want to see new stuff, and B, people don't want to deal with parks that are under construction. It's a hamper to the guest experience. And so having things that are short-term turnarounds, a new Soarin' featuring America, a new animation experience, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin is getting an overhaul. Like, a lot of these things here can be deemed as, quote, new attractions or new offerings that are not shows and parades. And I think this is partly what they're doing here. So I'm not going to be surprised if we do see an earnings call that shows a lower summer, and this is one of the reasons they're doing these things. But that's just goes into my overall theory as to kind of what they're doing across property. As I said a few weeks ago, I'm not going to be surprised we see more of these things pop up that are very quick turnarounds that will be done by next summer. So this fits right into that, you know, having turnarounds coming to the Disney park so they can promote it and try and drive attendance, especially during this period of time when a lot of construction going on and dealing with, you know, Epic Universe and its impact on crowds as well. So all in all, I think it's a good move. I'm curious to see what they feature. I hope it's got a Florida Man in there. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, it looked like they were on a swamp there. I'm assuming a Florida Man maybe is piloting that airboat. You know, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe you go to the Midwest, get some rednecks involved. Like, you know, show some cool aspects of stuff. I think it potentially could be a really good thing. And I hope it's not a temporary thing. I do hope it is a permanent thing, because if it is temporary and it goes back to show, you know, soaring around the world, I do think that's not going to be a great look if you're trying to quell the, you know, hey, we're very pro-America here, but then you go back to showing things that are just world-based, you know, essentially. But we'll see. This may be a long-term thing. It could be a short-term thing, or in my opinion, they need to have a rotation of these things that just play in Soarin', maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different ones that can play at various times. I think that would be a good move there. But either way, Soarin' Across America is coming to Disney World and Disneyland next summer. And we'll see if anything else pops up that they do for 250th, or they have any more short-term turnarounds for new attractions before next summer. So if they do any of that, we will talk about it on here and let you know about it. But for now, that is going to be it, though, for this video. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about all this? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.